Did you know that Miffy, yes, that Miffy from our childhood cartoons, is actually a multi-millionaire? So the Miffy estate makes about 200 to 263 million dollars every year in income, and that's because Miffy doesn't play around with licensing. They make this whopping amount of money through books, through merch licensing, through their IP licensing, museums, and so much more. Especially since recently it was Miffy's 70-year anniversary, they've really ramped up how much of a global presence they want Miffy to be, kind of becoming at the level of Sanrio and Hello Kitty, which I bet you didn't know Miffy has beef with Sanrio, but we'll talk about that later. Also, hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. This is my first YouTube video as Anushkash, and I'm feeling pretty nervous about it, but Miffy is really such a childhood warm character for me, so somehow I'm feeling comforted to make my first long form video on Miffy. Also, I decided to do this as a YouTube video because the business of Miffy, like Miffy as a case study, is just so big and vast that I felt like just doing it as a reel was not enough. I did make a reel though, so you can go check it out on my Instagram, but let's just dive into the business of Miffy. So I realized this first because my spidey senses started tingling when I was on a recent trip to the Netherlands, and I noticed that I was seeing Miffy merch everywhere, which is not surprising because Miffy is a Dutch invention. It was created by Dick Bruna, a Dutch illustrator, in 1955. And Dick Bruna was from Utrecht, which is where I went, and you can see a lot of Miffy in the traffic lights over there and random statues around the city. There's a lot of Miffy memorials around the city, even for Dick Bruna. But my spidey senses were tingling because I saw Miffy merch in every souvenir shop, in every airport, in every train station. Basically, anywhere that people buy things, you see Miffy merch, and all of it was from a handful of companies. There was no bootleg Miffy, Miffa, kind of rip-off products anywhere that I saw in the Netherlands. And so I was like, wait a minute, these guys must be really serious about their licensing. Anyway, EU laws make it easier for you to control these kind of things, but my sense was right, because you can't make $263 million in a year just by being cute. You also have to have business acumen. Also on that trip, I was at a house party in Amsterdam, and I was talking to a Dutch person about this, and they told me that Miffy does not play around with the licensing of their IP. Even if we'll talk about this more, but just to anecdotally tell you, they were telling me about this one case where Miffy refused to be in a museum along with other cartoon characters because according to their estate, Miffy exists in her own universe. And also they told me that a lot of artists are sent a copyright notice even if they accidentally or kind of use a hint of Miffy in their works, because these guys are really protective about how Miffy is used and by who. So Miffy has done collabs with the Van Gogh Museum. There is merch in a lot of souvenir shops, but also especially Hema, which is a noted supermarket in the Netherlands. Miffy has collabed with Uniqlo. There's Miffy jewelry, there's Miffy cafes, Miffy theme parks all over the world. But before all that, let's get into the history of Miffy a little bit. As I said, it was created by Dutch illustrator Dick Bruna, and he was really inspired by the art style of Matisse and Mondrian. So if you look at this famous painting by Mondrian, you can definitely see the influence between that and Miffy. So there's a lot of color blocking and clean, bold lines. Also, the art style overall is quite minimal because Bruna wanted the art style to be this calm and safe space for children. By the way, Miffy in Dutch is called Nijntje, and that's because bunny in Dutch is called konijn, and in Dutch you add the suffix ch to the end of anything to say it's small. So a small bunny is konijntje, and they just shortened it to Nijntje, which is so true. I look at that and I'm like, that's Nijntje for real. But because I grew up with the Miffy show in my younger years, I will be referring to her as Miffy. So Nijntje or Miffy started out as books in 1955, and since then they have sold 85 million copies across the world in 50 languages. Eventually it expanded from that to even being the show, as you might have seen in your childhood as well, to merchandising. There's also a Miffy museum in Utrecht, which I went to, and I will tell you about my experience with that a bit later. And there are a bunch more collabs which we'll talk about. So the company behind Miffy's licensing is Mercis Beve, which means that they are the company that controls the intellectual property rights of Miffy. So if somebody wants to use Miffy's image or Miffy's likeness in their merch or their show or in any product that they're making, they have to get licensing rights from Mercis. Otherwise, Miffy's gonna take your ass to court. And trust me, Miffy has taken asses to court, which we'll talk about in a bit. So here's some examples of Miffy merch, because at this point I'm convinced I have about 80% of all Miffy merch that exists in this world. First of all, I have this little Miffy to put on my bag. She's getting a little bit dirty, but I'll just pop her in the washing machine. I also went pretty crazy in the museum gift shop, and this is all the Miffy stuff that I bought from there. It was mostly keychains. I also got a Miffy hairband from Hema. I got a Miffy film camera that I gave to my brother. And recently, Uniqlo opened in Bangalore, and I was invited to their pre-opening event. And you can imagine my delight when I saw that they have Miffy t-shirts. You best believe I bought one. I might be going back to buy the other one as well, but I have been wearing the hell out of this Miffy t-shirt. It's just like, I think this is what adulthood is all about, right? There's no escaping the fact that we have like responsibilities and we have to be adults at certain times, but who's gonna stop me from walking around with Miffy while I am being an adult and doing all the adult things? You know, there's just a je ne sais quoi about the Miffiness of it all. I'm really just saying anything at this point, so let's get back to it. Miffy has signed a deal with this company called Wild Brain, which is also to manage Miffy's library of episodes online on YouTube. That's something I want to explore further, because a lot of companies or legacy TV and media companies are putting their stuff online, and there's obviously huge potential to monetize it, as well as concerns of like IP infringement, because they're like, well, other people can't upload episodes online and make money from it. We have to do that. Therefore, they will sign deals with companies who do this professionally so that they can distribute their stuff online. So they are managing Miffy YouTube channels in a bunch of languages: French, Spanish, Japanese, etc. There's also a Miffy cafe in Bangkok, which I am upset nobody told me about when I went to Bangkok. And there's also a Miffy theme park in Sasebo City in Japan. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Speaking of which, I didn't know that Miffy is super popular in Japan. So I realized that when I did go to the Miffy Museum in Utrecht, and while the main language for stuff they were describing was Dutch, they had an English and a Japanese translation. And also there were a lot of Japanese families around me. And so I did a little digging into it, and Miffy is super popular in Japan. First of all, because the Miffy books were first published in Japan in 1964. So the cultural relevance of it has just grown over so many decades, and it's a pretty easily recognized cartoon over there. And also the art style and calm minimalism of Miffy really goes along with Japan's kawaii sensibilities. I also found this cute Miffy flower square in Tokyo, which is a place dedicated for you to just take a stroll surrounded by greenery and Miffy statues, which is so cute and also going on my bucket list. Now, onto the juicy part. Did you know that Miffy had beef with Sanrio? So in the 2000s, Sanrio released a new character called Kathy, which is basically like if Hello Kitty had Miffy ears. And I mean, if you're asking my opinion, it's not even that she suspiciously looks similar to Miffy. I think she's basically Miffy. You can never be her, girl. Build your own personality. So now a part of Mercis, the licensing company's job, is also to protect the IP of Miffy and make sure that people aren't just ripping off Miffy for their own gain. So you best believe Miffy took them to court. The creator of Miffy, Dick Bruna, very openly showed his disdain as well. He said in 2008 that Kathy is a copy of Miffy. I don't like that at all. I always think, no, don't do that. Try to make something that you think of yourself. Exactly. So Mercis took Sanrio to court, and for a couple of years they did a bunch of back and forth until 2011, when a huge earthquake and tsunami struck Japan. So after that, the two parties decided to resolve the conflict amicably. With a worldwide settlement, Sanrio agreed to discontinue Kathy, and both the parties jointly donated 150,000 euros to the victims of the Japan tsunami and earthquake, which I think is a good note to part on. And they also said that they will try their best to keep a respectable distance between the two of them. But I am hopeful that at some point in time I will see Miffy and Hello Kitty together. We shouldn't pit two queens against each other. But I think that's unlikely to happen because I don't think Miffy is allowed to exist in other universes. So I tried looking this up. I couldn't find anything specifically. So just take this as an anecdotal piece of information. But yeah, I was telling you about that house party in Amsterdam that I was in. And this person told me about how there was some exhibit that was going to happen in an Amsterdam museum, which was putting a bunch of like well-known cartoon characters together for a children's exhibit, and the Miffy estate refused to be there because they said Miffy exists in her own universe, so she's not seen along with other cartoons. Again, I couldn't find anything specific about which museum this was or where exactly it happened, but given the fact that Miffy has so much licensing power and yet has not done a crossover episode with another cartoon, I think speaks for itself. But also, yeah, this person told me that in the Netherlands, like if people do parodies with Miffy or use Miffy's likeness in their own products or artists use it, they're quite likely to get a notice from Mercis because they take this shit seriously. In fact, there was another case that I found online where Miffy came after this sex toy company that was using Miffy's likeness. So there was this company, Bunny Juice, which is described as a company that makes adult sexual stimulation kit comprising primarily of adult sexual stimulation aids. And this is what their mark looked like, and this is what Miffy's trademark looks like. So this happened in 2019, and beyond the fact that, okay, Mercis owns Miffy's IP protection, their main case was also that they wanted to protect the childlike innocence of the Miffy brand and not have it be associated with something like this. I mean, the Netherlands is a pretty sexually progressive country. If something like that happened in India, it would definitely be a way bigger scandal. I don't think this was as big of a scandal in the country, but reading the scores, it was ruled in favor of Miffy. They said that both signs were purely figurative, both depicting a rabbit's head with oval ears in a cartoon style. The similar outlines included two dots and a cross for the earlier mark and a central dot in the shape of a flower or asterisk for the contested mark. I mean, I don't really think that that mark is a flower given the kind of products this company wants to sell. Both conceptually represent a rabbit's head with the minimalist appearance and a border. Therefore, it is rightly confirmed that there is an above average visual similarity and a high conceptual similarity between the two conflicting signs. So, I mean, yeah, other than the fact that they just control like who can use Miffy visually, they also do a lot of work to kind of determine under what kind of conditions is Miffy there and to also protect the integrity and the values of Miffy that the now deceased creator of Miffy envisioned for it. Okay, so now I want to talk about my Miffy museum experience, because I went there and it was so amazing, but I will say that I was a little disappointed with the experience because it's not that great for an adult. It's mainly built for if you're a family with young kids. And you know what? I'm not even going to complain about that. Like, Miffy is a cartoon. Children should enjoy it. I'm not going to be the adult who's like, wait, why aren't they catering to me? But I would have liked if they catered to me a little bit. So the museum was super, super cute, super well designed. They basically had all these different sections for kids. So they had this little art room where you could draw with crayons on canvases. They had a room where they helped children understand like traffic rules and regulations through these like simulated little like cars and train sections with Miffy all over them. It was a very hands-on experience for kids. There were a lot of things for them to touch and play around with and throw around, and the energy was quite nice. I mean, I did feel awkward being like a single adult over there. If I was there with my friends, I would definitely have been more childlike and silly and done the kind of like children exhibits as well, but by myself I did feel a little awkward. I would say the place I felt most at ease was the Miffy cafe on the ground floor, which was so cute. The decor, I mean, in line with the rest of the museum, it's so well designed. You literally feel like you're living in the cartoon. And there were so many details. Like there was a Miffy everywhere you could look, kind of like how they say, like, you know, Mickey hidden heads wherever, whatever, that kind of thing. But yeah, like I ended up getting a Miffy pancake and a Miffy latte, which they put Miffy on, and it was so cute. Even like the bill, the cutlery, the plate, everything was Miffy designed. And you best believe I took even the cutlery and packaging home with me. I didn't use it, but I did take it home with me. So yeah, that is the business and history of Miffy. While I was doing my research, I also came across this video with just 150 views by global licensing group called Miffy's Enduring Place in Licensing, and it is an interview. So it's this woman from Licensing Expo 2025. Bruh, there are like expos and conventions happening for industries we don't even know about. But she's done this interview with a project manager at Miffy, and they are being pretty aggressive about how much they want to expand globally with the Miffy brand. Clearly, they have an influence all over the world, but it's only going to get bigger, which is why I wanted to make this video, not only because I just went on the trip, but also I don't see anyone talking about the business of Miffy. You heard it here first. Whenever you see Miffy out in the wild next, you will know what the reason is. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. This is my first YouTube video. I don't know what direction I want to take with my channel. If I want them all to be like business case studies, I also want to do some like yapping kind of videos in this vibe. I also want to do YouTube videos because I have to speak fast and cut out a lot when I'm doing reels. Which you might be able to tell from the pace of this video. So I'm just really trying to take the pressure off of doing YouTube and just have fun with it. So I had fun doing this. I'm gonna edit this now. I hope you had fun watching this. If you did, subscribe to my channel. You can also check out my Instagram. It's the same, Anushkash on Instagram. And I will see you in my next video. And if you don't see me in the next video soon, just follow me on my Instagram. I'm always posting a story or posting a reel or saying something stupid on there. So see you then. Bye. Miffy, say bye to them. Bye. See you. Subscribe. Mercis, please do not send me a legal notice. I'm a big fan of your work. You know the Miffy Museum gift shop hate to see me coming. So does my bank account. So here's a quick little haul of everything I got from there. This cute little Miffy plush toy. I know if my mom is watching this, she's gonna be like, you have 100 plush toys, why do you need one? I don't have a Miffy one. And it has a bell inside it. Then I got a little bit overwhelmed because the gift shop was closing and I like stressed out. I got this fuzzy little Miffy keychain, and I got this 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 little tin of Miffy mints because it looked really cute. That's my Miffy haul. Don't ask me how much money I spent on it. It doesn't matter. It's for the childlike wonder. So